I know I said I would upload the escape video, but I wanted to get this out first, or that's what I would say if we were back in December 2024. As of today, the video covering those details is already up on the channel. But in this video, we are covering a battle between two ReZero characters. One is so strong he has slain dragons. The other is just slightly above average. But this warrior has something that makes him stand out. Just like the protagonist, he is capable of returning by death. Beyond what wielding this power implies, it is undeniable that by abusing this ability, he can know everything that is going to happen and use that information to outmaneuver his enemies. Honestly, it surprises me that no one has made a video covering this yet. I know summaries exist, but a summary compresses too much, so I assure you that you missed many details. I must clarify that even though I'm trying to be as faithful as possible to the original text, I couldn't cover the story 100%. So I strongly recommend reading the original chapter if you enjoy this. Now let's get started. Aldebaran didn't know if Bayako, Subaru's companion, would also be caught in the spell, but he knew that if she had time, she could have undone it. Regardless, it doesn't matter now because both are trapped inside a small sphere, a prison that freezes its captives in time. Aldebaran picks up the object, describing it as holding a small crystal ball. Fortunately for him, this object is nowhere near as fragile as actual crystal. After all, if it were easy to break, that would be inconvenient for what happens next. He knows Subaru's allies are coming for him. They think his betrayal has just begun, unaware that it actually started a long time ago, since the moment Subaru let his beloved mistress die. And although it sounds unbelievable, that doesn't matter anymore, because his mistress is gone. Aldebaran started this fight the moment Subaru left the Empire. Since then, he has been dying over and over to prevent the protagonist's allies from following him into this desert. Even if he could deal with them, it was better not to have obstacles. First, he had to convince Roswaal, Subaru's strongest ally. He had to persuade him that there was something more beneficial than joining the protagonist on this mission. Administering the territories left behind by Priscilla, it hurt him to use Schult in the negotiations, a child protected and loved by his mistress. But it doesn't matter, because she is not here anymore. He died 4,061 times finding the correct words to convince Roswaal. Convincing Ram, one of Subaru's most stubborn allies, took many attempts. But at least he knew he could use her concern for her younger sister, Rem, who had just woken up from a long coma. He was surprised to find that after surpassing Rem verbally, he also had to face Rem's arguments. Although she hasn't recovered her memories, her experience with Subaru in the Empire has strengthened her significantly. Still, he took advantage of the sisters' mutual love to convince them not to follow the protagonist. He felt terrible for using such a low blow, because his mistress was also a woman who loved her brother dearly. But it doesn't matter, because she is not here anymore. He died 972 times convincing them. The hardest person to understand emotionally was Otto, the Minister of Internal Affairs for Emilia's camp. He was simply someone you couldn't confront unprepared. Once negotiations closed, there was no reopening them. Al knows this because he tried hundreds of times. However, his experience negotiating with Roswaal helped. Taking advantage of the kindness still remaining in this talented minister's heart, Al managed to guilt-trip him over the potential breaking of his self. Aldebaran's breakdown. He felt guilty for exploiting this person's kindness, as his mistress was also a kind soul. But it doesn't matter, because she is not here anymore. He died 633 times convincing him. Another complicated case was Frederica, though not as hard as the others. He held no grudge against her, but it was troublesome that she would automatically enlist in the desert expedition if left unchecked. She definitely couldn't go. Her rare blood might cause problems when he used the dragon. Thanks to the countless loops, he understood the dynamic of Subaru's camp perfectly. He knew the right move was to point out that if she left, the mansion's little servant would have a hard time dealing with the Margrave alone. Despite this, he would have liked to offer the maid some comforting words. That is what his mistress would have done upon seeing someone forced to do something they didn't wish to. But it doesn't matter, because she's not here anymore. He died 94 times convincing her. Honestly, convincing Emilia was easy. Aldebaran himself says convincing her was like taking candy from a baby. The only reason he failed initially was that he lacked the resolve to deceive those beautiful amethyst eyes. He didn't want to twist her thoughts to fit his own false feelings. But once he found the resolve to lie, everything went smoothly. Aldebaran continues to commit more and more sins, to the point where he knows he is beyond salvation. He knows he would be executed by his mistress if she saw him right now. But it doesn't matter, because she is not here anymore. He died 5 times convincing her. The last person he had to convince was Subaru. Aldebaran never doubted how to approach him, never doubted what to say, and never doubted he would succeed. He didn't die a single time convincing him, because he knows the protagonist. He knew Subaru wouldn't foresee this betrayal. He also knew that whatever happened, he must not kill Subaru. Doing so would only allow Subaru to counterattack via return by death. Immediately, he heard a war cry. It was Garfield. Having witnessed how this bastard locked Subaru and Betty inside a sphere, he lunged with the speed of an arrow. It is said the force of his charge alone is enough to knock someone out just by grazing them, but the young warrior simply incapacitates Al and slams him into the ground. He wasn't going to kill him yet. He needed to know how to free Subaru and his company. Aldebaran feels his jaw shatter against the hard pavement. He simply tells Garfield he's a fool. If he really wanted to stop everything, he should have knocked him unconscious immediately. Without hesitation, the traitor crunches down on a pill hidden in his teeth and feels his blood begin to boil. He hears the war cry again. He knows Garfield will try to grab his hand and subdue him, so this time he dodges the grip and drives his elbow into the young warrior's face. Aldebaran executes a strong counter, using the opponent's own speed against him. However, Garfield is a warrior. While taking the hit from Aldebaran's counter, at that very moment, he kicks the traitor in the abdomen, sending him flying into a shelf. Aldebaran feels his bones snap. Better try again. So, while buried under a pile of books, he bites the pill again and feels his body begin to boil. He hears the young warrior's war cry again. He knows he can't evade Garfield's kick, so he decides if he can't dodge it, he'll make sure his opponent doesn't use it in the first place. He dodges the grab again, but this time he coats his elbow in hard stone before impact. The power of this new counterattack is immense. Garfield is launched into the air like a baseball. The narration describes how he leaves drops of blood along his trajectory before crashing into a bookshelf. Aldebaran sees something out of the corner of his eye and jumps back, but it's useless. He feels he cannot move. He looks down and realizes his body is soaked in water. It turns out Ezo, the second most powerful mage in the kingdom, has joined the battle and immobilized the traitor. However, determined to give him a chance to explain, he asks why Al did this to Subaru and Betty, stressing how worried they were about him. Suddenly, Ezo panics and releases the bind to prepare healing magic, but it's too late. The traitor had already swallowed the pill again. We aren't told how much time passed, but the narration pauses to tell us. It took 106 attempts to reach this result. This loop no longer starts with Garfield yelling. It starts the moment Aldebaran sends the young warrior flying and the mage is about to cast the water spell. Instantly, the helmeted man covers his body in earth armor, absorbing the water attack. He walks through the room, putting distance between himself and his rivals. Garfield gets up and lunges again, but is stopped by Ezo, who convinces him to calm down. The situation is strange. Aldebaran seems to know their every move and has countermeasures for things he shouldn't know. Seeing Garfield regain his composure and fighting spirit, the traitor decides to take the pill again. We are back at the moment Ezo yells at Garfield to calm down. Immediately, Aldebaran pushes the nearest bookshelf. The fall triggers a domino effect, bringing down the other shelves on top of Ezo. Obviously, this won't kill him, but it buys enough time to provoke the young warrior. Incidentally, the novel reveals here that the traitor had come to this location the night before to prepare the terrain to his advantage. When Garfield sees Ezo trying to escape the sea of books, he notices Aldebaran open his helmet's grill and take out the small sphere containing Subaru. He watches the traitor swallow the object. The narration tells us the boy's eyes filled with hatred. Blinded by intense emotion, he lunges at Aldebaran and hits him so hard, the traitor claims he's about to vomit what he just ate. So, before that happens, he takes the pill again. Filled with hatred, the boy propels himself with all his strength towards Aldebaran, only for Al to duck at the last second. Garfield strikes in rapid succession, but every blow is dodged. Garfield's fists simply cannot connect. This leaves a bad taste in the boy's mouth. He realizes that while the blows he takes aren't fatal, they are annoying enough to prevent the fight from ending. Suddenly, Al uses his earth magic again. When Garfield turns to see the source of the attack, a massive rock slams directly into his face. It was angled perfectly to cause maximum damage. In that brief pause, the young warrior notices how exhausted Aldebaran is. One solid hit is all it takes to knock the traitor out. Despite all the dirty tricks, his fighting level is far inferior to Garfield's. Just then, Ezo arrives again, pleading with Garfield to calm down. Just as the teenager is about to listen, he is provoked once again by Aldebaran, who tells him to retreat and go cry to his grandmother and sister. Unfortunately, the young warrior falls for the bait and launches himself at Aldebaran again. He is determined to win, willing to seal the opponent's movements by grappling him in a bear hug. Suddenly, sand flies into his eyes, blinding him momentarily. Still, he pushes forward, determined to defeat his enemy. Then, over his ally's warning, Garfield feels something coming right at his face. Instantly, he opens his jaws and decides to bite down on the incoming blow, determined to rip the traitor's arm off. It was a sound strategy. Aldebaran has lost one arm. If he loses the remaining one, he can no longer defend himself. Then, he realizes something. The arm he bit is the left arm. His enemy was a one-armed man, yes, but he still had his right arm. When he realizes his mistake, we are told his enemy's fist swelled violently inside his mouth, blasting most of his teeth out. Aldebaran had created an arm of earth and detonated it inside the boy's mouth. But it didn't end there. Amidst the explosion, Al touches Garfield's throat to trigger a gag reflex, creates a stone gauntlet on his real right arm, and delivers a diagonal uppercut to the young warrior's jaw. The poor boy feels his brain rattle as he loses his sense of balance, all while hearing his enemy mock him. We switch to Ezzo's point of view. He realizes how irregular Aldebaran is. His actions are too perfect. Experienced fighters have intuition, but Aldebaran's counterattacks don't fall into that category. He's not even an expert in melee or magic. He warns Al not to be surprised if he loses another limb in this fight. Ezzo then chants 2 spells simultaneously, an invisible wind to steal the opponent's combat strength, while the victim is whipped by flames circulating through the current. Aldebaran lets himself be hit by the wind, only to use it to his advantage, creating an earth shield to survive the burns. As he is tossed around, his body slams into various parts of the tower. But mysteriously, at every impact point, the traitor had prepared mud cushions to soften the blow, allowing him to escape the draft. Petrified by this feat, Ezzo concludes Aldebaran must be seeing the future, but seeing he still has mana, the mage decides to keep fighting. The scene shifts abruptly. Petra and Meili wake up due to the commotion. Initially thinking it was an attack from Felt's camp, they are planning their next move when Garfield appears, bloody and missing several teeth. He tries to speak but slurs his words. He asks Petra to use Yang magic on him to boost his physical stats. Once buffed, he rips a massive stone from the floor and seals the entrance. He remarks that even if Aldebaran can see the future, it means nothing if he faces an unavoidable attack. Instantly, a massive torrent of water begins to flood the area. But thanks to the pressure Garfield applies to the stone door, they resist the flood. Petra feels guilty and foolish for believing Aldebaran was okay. Meili simply concludes, "It seems not everyone can be saved by Subaru." Moments later, a voice calls out to them. It's Ezzo. He tells them to head to the very top of the tower. Despite his broken ability, Aldebaran could do nothing but let himself be swept away by the immense currents of water. He couldn't shield himself with mud or calculate his fall like he did with the wind. If he tried to swim against it, the magic water drained his energy. He could only go with the flow. Now he sees Garfield and Ezzo approaching. They are injured too, but still standing thanks to their superior fighting spirit. Garfield threatens him, and Ezzo demands an explanation, adding that even with convenient power, that doesn't mean he will win every battle. The traitor agrees. He can't win every fight. Since his fighting spirit didn't seem to diminish, Garfield and Ezzo take a combat stance once more. Aldebaran states that their conviction is annoying, but it no longer matters, because she is no longer here. 748 times. That is how many times he was hit by the water and swept away. He couldn't redirect it, but he could see the possibility of victory if he landed in the right spot. And in this loop, he finally reproduced the conditions for his victory. He resumes his speech. "Even if I can't win all the battles, I only need to win the last one." He points in a direction. Garfield and Ezzo follow his finger and realize a book of the dead, a book containing all the lived experiences of a person, has fallen in front of the dragon at the top of the tower. The divine dragon Volcanica. The name on the book was that of a deceased person, and the cover bore the name Aldebaran. Since the dragon is a hollow shell with almost no consciousness, reading the book made it adopt the traitor's personality as its own. Instantly, it tells Subaru's allies, "Your stars were bad." The strongest creature in the world then attacks them with its dragon breath. The story ends by naming the dragon not as the divine dragon Volcanica, but as the divine dragon Aldebaran. And that's all for now. This is a video I made shortly before starting my English channel, so I had lost the video project a long time ago. But fortunately, I was able to ask an editor to remake it. If you're interested in knowing what happens next, I have a video narrating the aftermath, so if you want to watch it, just click the pinned link. Remember that a like and a comment help the algorithm more than you know, so don't hesitate to tell me what you thought of the Aldebaran versus Garfield fight.